we don't know what information you have, what information we have. We want to be as transparent as possible. Obviously, the whole thing is working itself through the process that it needs to work itself out through. We need to constantly work with our insurance company. We're working with the vendors. We're working with the market. But we wanted to answer any questions. I see 27 rolling in now, so I'll wait. But I'll say the same thing that I was saying. We just want to answer any questions that you guys have, if you know, and then just try to make sure you have the most updated information that we have, and be as transparent as possible on this, because we are working through this together. This is a community-wide effort. So obviously we have Dan Hartman, the City Business Administrator and Chief of Staff to Mayor Williams. He'll be able to handle most of the questions as he is working on the front lines of this as much, if not more, than anyone else. I'll give Seth a chance to okay, all right, sounds good. All right, sounds good. Yep. Basically giving you the same spiel as I just said. You may have updated information. I'm not sure. But we're just trying to stay as transparent as possible. Exactly. So I'll let you guys ask any questions. We don't have any formal opening statement to make. Whatever questions you guys have, we'll do our best to answer them.
What's the latest as far as figuring out like a temporary location for the vendors and where that part will stand?
So right now we're working with a number of different temporary companies that work on temporary structures. That's something that we're hoping to have lined up in the next few days. Then it would just be the procurement side of things, which will be done in an expedited fashion, and then their setup. You know, ultimately we're still hoping at some point in August to have a temporary structure into place that will allow vendors and customers and the public the chance to shop, not outdoors in a courtyard or anything, but in a climate-controlled environment that offers pretty much everything they had and then some. That's primarily where we're at right now. It's just pieces have to come together with that.
I know you guys said this is still a work in progress. You're talking with your insurance companies, but right now we've gotten a chance to speak with some vendors whose insurances is not paying 100% for everything. Kind of how do these vendors move forward as they are kind of working to pick up the pieces that maybe their insurance companies are not?
That's why the mayor gave the directive as soon as this happened to get this up and running and operational in a way that we can limit losses and damages to businesses as a whole. What we want to do is give them a great workspace that, while everything works out on the historical preservation side and the rehabilitation side, all of that gets worked out. There is a place that is safe, secure, and allows them to do their business that they need to do. So with that in mind, that is the exact reason why we sprung into action to get this done in as quick a fashion as possible.
And then just one follow-up there, you know, is there at any point going to be maybe any grants or loans from the city to these vendors? Is there any talks about that just yet?
So right now, we're at the early stages. I will say Governor Shapiro, the insurance commissioner, Secretary of Agriculture, a number of different cabinet members, the Director Pima, everybody's been great. We're working on the entry level, still with the vendors on the disaster phase of things. We're slowly moving towards that rebuild phase, so we're working at things at a couple different levels here, just because they have to in order for things not to get bogged down in the red tape. But as it pertains to assistance and things like that, there are a number of charities that have gone out there. There are a number of fundraising drives that are out there. There's state assistance. The state brought in FEMA for assistance, Small Business Administration, not FEMA. We're working with a number of different agencies to patchwork things together, because there's not a one size or one-stop shop to handle all of this. DCED is going to play a component. It's just bringing all those resources together from the state and federal level and even the county level, and everybody has been great so far.
Do you have an estimate of damages to that building, and can you talk more about the actual insurance policy?
Nothing yet on estimation. I will say, because the large amount of different insurance carriers, we're probably looking at The first to second week of August is when everything will be wrapped up investigation size. What you will see is things going on in the general area, fencing being put up, certain things done to keep people from getting in there. There's quite a bit of investigation work that has to happen between a number of the different insurance carriers. That's the best I can say there. As for the policy, the building itself is covered under our policy. It's well insured for that. Realistically, it's going to just figure out how we put the pieces in together on what it's going to look like in the future. There are going to be a great amount of limitations on what we can and can't do with it because it is a National Historic Site, the landmark. So there's things we can and can't do. We can't just completely re-envision it and make it a 4-story or 5-story tower. There are limitations there that we do have to work in, both at the federal and state level.
Are there any new indications on what can be preserved, of what's, in terms of
We're going to be a few weeks away from that. The insurance companies have brought in structural engineers and architects to begin looking at that. I know from Chief Enterline's position, he said the brickwork, with how thick it is, still seems to be in pretty good shape from where we're at with the amount of water it had to take on. Those buildings have been through a lot in 150-ish years, so I wouldn't be shocked if they withstood the impact of a fire and the water that came with it.
I know none of us have been here all 150 years, but just to whatever extent, any perspective on whether the city has ever before had to take on something like this? And either way, is there a template? Is there, when you start something like this, is there some other city that's gone through this?
There are places. I mean, you could look, I think Washington, D.C. had a fire at a historic market. There are a couple things. Keep in mind that there are state laws here that we're going to have to play by the rules as it relates to historical preservation. Rulemaking that was made at the state level. Not really a playbook, but the cooperation that's there, I think, is going to write a playbook for the future on how to do these things. Like I said, we're lucky to have the levels of support from municipal, the county, all the way up to federal government, that I think we're going to be able to do things the right way, and hopefully in a lot less time than people envision a government project taking.
And where does this rank in terms of just challenges that Harrisburg and this region have faced of this nature?
It's a lot because, when you look at that type of roofing that was on there, to get the specialty to do that particular roofing, it's not something you can just pick up a phone and say, hey, can you fix this roof? There's going to be a lot of challenges with the type of brickwork. There's going to be a lot of different things that, we're lucky. The Building Trades of Central Pennsylvania have offered to help. They have the expertise to do a lot of the work needed. It ranks up there, but community coming together and all of the players from the federal level, like I said, down to the local level, and even the business owners and the nonprofit running the board. All of us working together, I think we all play our role, and we all work together and row in the same direction. We're going to be where we need to be.
Is there any kind of, I know, of course, you're early on in the process, but any kind of talk about how the rebuild is going to happen? Are you guys going to try to do it in phases?
There's a good potential for it to be done in phases. A lot of that's going to depend on what insurance says to us. Because if you look at it, you look at the building, looking at the stone building being the far western building. If you look at the western side of the brick building, it's primarily water damage. So, could we potentially go in there and do work over a few months, create a barrier and get that side open? There's a potential for that. It's really going to be what insurance is going to allow us to do. And then we also have the occupancy side of that we have to measure that. How can we keep the building safe? Obviously, it's the winter. But as we look at rebuilding this building, realizing that when it was built, you didn't have things like fire sprinklers. That's going to have to go into this. You look at things like the flooring and how it is. We're going to have to do certain things with the flooring to address ADA concerns. The bathrooms, we're going to have to do things in there. So there's a lot of things that we have to piece together that necessarily didn't exist in the 1860s and 70s. But we're working through all of those things.
That being said, when can the community, it might be too soon to tell as well, but when can the community start to see this building be rebuilt, or is it just too soon right now to let the community know when they might be able to see some progress?
Like I said, you're going to start seeing things over the coming weeks. A lot of that is investigation related, but part of that they're going to be taking part of the roof that is left that was burned down. You'll see things like that. That's not the beginning. Everything has to be done publicly, bid-wise. You know, there's going to be probably a story at a later date in a matter of a month or two dealing with the procurement and getting the people in the door to do this right work that we need to get done. That's really when things are going to kickstart, is once that process starts.
Regarding the fan that malfunctioned, who was responsible for maintaining that? And somebody said it had recently been cleaned or maintained. Who was in charge of that?
The daily maintenance for the building goes on to the association, the nonprofit handling that. As it pertains to any questions with fans or anything, Chief Enterline's going to have to answer all of those. I'm not an electrical expert. So right now, as it pertains to a temporary structure, we're working on getting a facility that will have all the modern amenities, flooring. It will be sided. It will be air conditioned, heated, depending on the season, running water, electrical, different things like that. Right now, we're working with a number of different companies on the procurement side of the tent. It's something that once we get that side of it done, it takes about 1.5 to 3 weeks from the time that order is in to the time it's being occupied.